Live from the UK, broadcasting around the world. You're listening to the Mic Drop Club, hosted by Douglas Hammondishe. Message received. You do not need to know what you need. Just engage with the podcast feed. Providing weekly insights into cool stuff we've read, saw, did, or heard about what made us say, wow, eureka, damn, nothing is off limits. If it motivates and inspires you to reach your goals, then it shall be discussed. Featuring guest interviews from high performers and people of influence. And weekly awards for the best mic drop moment. This podcast is guaranteed.
Hi everybody, it's Douglas Hammondishe for another episode of the Mic Drop Club. Glad to be back. It's been a minute. I'm back in the studio and I'm going to drop some bombs on you guys with my co-host today, the one and only Jonas Froyd. I'm going to just bring it back into the feed. Check him out. How you doing, Jonas? How you doing? You all right? Okay, Jonas is there, but I think he's on mute. Let's see if we can unmute Jonas. Are you on mute, Jonas?
Yeah, no.
There you go. How you doing?
Terrific. Friday night. Awesome day.
Indeed, yeah. So.
And a really interesting talk today. So.
Yeah. I was just telling the viewers out there that this has been quite a while, 2-week gap. We've been doing some work behind the scenes, making sure our tech is working. And I'm kind of liking the new format as well. It's a lot slicker. I understand how the technology is interplaying as well. So I'm really happy to have this conversation. So today we're going live straight away, by the way.
Cool.
Yeah, we're going to straight live. We're going live across YouTube with the view that, again, we can see how we do this live. The pre-recorded show is also good, but this is an opportunity for us to be as real as possible with our audience and convey the fact that we do this all the time, so we don't need to rehearse anything really. So today's topic I want to share with the audience, with Jonas to help me with, is all about mastering and coming to terms with silence. Too often in the Western world, we are geared to talking all the time, not having enough time to take our breath, not having enough time to reflect, and we have an uncomfortable relationship with silence as a result. So how that typically pans out, if you're in the Western world, when somebody's talking to you and they suddenly goes silent, it's uncomfortable. Why is it uncomfortable? Me and Jonas are going to unpack in this conversation today, okay? And what can you do and how you should be responding to the silence, okay? So Jonas, welcome. That was our intro to silence. So what are your views on silence?
Silence. I love it for the cause of my time to get even more clarity what's going on in my head, in my body, and actually the environment around me as well. So I really love, and I'm doing silence every day in different length of the time, but still the silence. And as well, you said in the intro, it's also silence when you talk to people. So I really use silence in many different ways. So really, I love to talk about this, and I love to hear what you think as well, because we haven't talked about it before.
No,
So
it's like it's one of those subjects that few people go into depth, and we won't go into the real depths of it. But from the physics side of science, sound, silence, should I say? Silence is the absence of sound. And there's this saying that if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? You know, that old saying. And that works on the viewpoint that you got to be in the forest to hear the tree falling. You know, so silence, by definition, is the complete absence of sound. And we know from physics that sound was one of the first things that came into existence before life forms, as we know, complex life forms came into being, because the universe was singing as, you know, creation came into effect. Atoms were being smashed and creating new elements, and these elements created the known universe that we come to call Earth, planets, and all the other stuff that comes into it. So that created noise. You know, so sound is very ancient, and being able, from my point of view, to get myself into a state whereby I at least acknowledge that I need to be silent. Now, silent doesn't mean for me being still. There's a lot of movements I've seen in martial arts like Tai Chi. These exercises you do in silence. You don't have to create. It's very graceful. All these movements. You don't have to make noise. But I'm talking about being still. And our good friend Git is a good, very strong advocate for the use of silence in therapy. And what can you do with silence when you know there's no sound? You're not consciously making sound. It's for me to acknowledge your humanity. It's a chance for you to acknowledge you're alive, you know, and take more effort to take a conscientious view on yourself. Like, how do you know you're alive? Some people, you can argue that case because you're breathing. Okay, fine. Have you ever studied your breathing? Have you paid close attention to the way you breathe? Have you tried to master your breathing? Have you ever come to realize that sometimes you're stressed out and your breathing is the first thing that goes wrong? You got like, you start having these panic attacks. You can't regulate your breathing, and notice if you can control your breathing, you can also help calm down your thoughts. So for me, silence is something that I've come to appreciate more and more in my age, through my wisdom, through my experiences. I'm accepting and really appreciating it, because these moments when you could be silent, they're precious times, and too often we just take them for granted. So that's just my general spin on it.
yeah, and I love the spin that you have about it. And I mean, silence for me is like so many dimensions. Like I said before, like I can sit and build my Lego for like 3 hours in silence. And I really believe also, like when I'm silent by myself, then it goes deeper in myself, and I can actually listen to hear my heartbeat, my pulse, my breathing, like you said, when I'm silent with myself. And it doesn't matter if it's a light room or dark room or noisy place or calm place. Just that I'm silent, that then my body and brain knows that I'm going to listen to me. I'm gonna feel me. So that's that one thing. And the other thing is, like you said, that we have a common friend, Gert, that the silence can actually make other people talk as well without talking. Like we said, we just observing the signal that the silence makes. So that's one take that I have as well when it's silence.
Yeah, we used to do when we were doing psychology. We used to do this therapeutic, like intervention where, as a group, maybe 10 of us, we used to sit in around a circle, and we have somebody that chairs this meeting, and we didn't talk. There was no agenda, but you just sit in silence. And as you rightfully said, silence is also an opportunity for people to speak that which is troubling them, something that's close to their heart. And because this was a protected space that we had an hour once a week as a team, you sit in a circle with no agenda. And sometimes it might be 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, before somebody speaks. And whatever is spoken becomes the topic of the discussion. So in the early days, I was like, oh my God, I would sit there and I would like doze off, like, it's so boring. Because every opportunity I get to sleep, even to this very day, I sleep. I could be waiting for a doctor's appointment, I will sleep. Give me an opportunity to sleep. Yeah, I'm the first to like, bam, I'm out. So I wasn't really taking these sessions seriously. But then the more you get used to that space of silence, and then you start reflecting on the quality of conversations that you're having when people have had the opportunity to be silent, you really start to appreciate the benefits it holds. So yeah, so we used to do these sessions and we'd have these conversations, and because there was no agenda and there was no right and no judgment, no right and wrong, there was no judgment, it was just expression of what you're experiencing. And if anything, you'd be steered for you to find solutions to your own problems. So there was a very strong coaching aspect to it. Instead of the host, the chair, prescribing advice, it was more like, okay, so what are you going to do now? How did it make you feel? What can you do? Who do you need to speak to? Because typically we're so used to crying out for help, and somebody has to help us. So it's refreshing when you have that situation and actually it's still back to you. At the end of the day, it's still your responsibility. At the end of the day, you have to take ownership of your problem. You know, nobody's coming to lift that load from you. You need to lift that load. You need to find out who you need to engage with to help you lift that load. And that's what these sessions were for. And they're profoundly powerful. And then equally, when we do counseling with young people, particularly who are going through mental health problems, sometimes you find that opportunity for them to be still has been the first time ever they've been still and silent. The first time, you know, particularly if you're hearing or responding to voices in your head, you know, hallucinations, even depressive thoughts. You know, that still can be experienced as noise in your head. You know, negative thoughts that you're useless, you're worthless, you never amount to anything, the world is bad, the world is corrupted, and all of these things, that's noise in your head. So if you ever sitting down next to somebody who's going through any of these problems, you know, this is where mastery over silence is so important, because that space enables them to frame for themselves what this phenomena is and how they're being affected by it. And that, like I said, when you're having constant thoughts that are negative, having this protective space to be able to reflect on that is a rare thing. So you should feel first and foremost honored that somebody's prepared to be sitting next to you going through crisis. And equally so, you need to respect that space by giving them the space to be and express what they need to express in the time that is required. And who knows what the time is going to be. Could be 1 minute, could be an hour. You know, who knows? It doesn't really matter. The point is, they will know over time that this space is protected and they will value that space. So that's why I teach anyone going through therapy, who supports anyone that's going through therapeutic interventions, how to look after them, how to not look after them as such, but how to help them. And don't interject, because sometimes we have this tendency to interject, don't we? You know, and prescribe, you know, which I don't like. I'm trying to make sure that anytime I'm giving someone coaching, I do not prescribe anything without their consent first.
Yeah, it's really touching me when you describe and storytelling me about how it was for you. And I mean, I have similar experience and like that within my martial arts background. We had always the silence. We had it when we started. Before the class, we just close your eyes and be silent, everybody. That's the start of every class. The first time ever, it's really hard to close your eyes and be still and just breathing in silence for 30 seconds. And I can see that when I teach my youngest students, they are really, really hyped when we're coming to the training and so on. But it's actually like they learn that the silence is good for them. So after a while, they actually enjoy it and really demanding it. Like, we need to have it because it makes me so much more like joyful, but also more focused and so on.
Yeah.
But so I think it's important to get back to what I call like to connect again, to relearn to connect again through silence, because you shouldn't need it, the talk, the language, the speech to connect, but everybody needs to talk because we think otherwise we will not connect. And that's what I wanted to make like a movement again. Like, we need to take back that and relearn again to connect without speak to each other. And that's, I think, is an art by itself as well. So that's what I reckon about adult as well. I mean, I usually work with young kids and youth in martial arts, but in my professionals, I work with adults. And when we have training with them, it's like you said, as your therapy meetings, we have in our concept, we have our ring that we put one person in the middle and we call it love bombing.
Love bombing.
And yeah, love bombing. But you know, it's because the person in the middle just know that they're gonna be bombed by love. But the thing is, we are like 8 people in the circle, and the person in the middle doesn't know who's gonna talk to you.
Okay.
So it's the silence first, and you know, then it's who's gonna pop the first love bombing.
Yeah.
And if I sitting behind you, Douglas, and then I said, Douglas, this is Jonas, I want to talk to you, then you need to turn around through silence. You are not allowed to speak yourself. You just be silent and listen to understand. So I can see that the adult I have met so far, they are not comfortable of that as well, like the silence as a connection.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that we brought up this topic.
Yes, it's a very, very important topic. It's very, because sometimes silence can be used very negatively. For instance, as you grow up and you make noise around the dinner table, your parents say, sit in silence. It's used as a punishment, you know. So we don't have that relationship with silence that we should have. You know, you should be saying sit in noise as a punishment more than sit in silence. Because unless it's for reflection and your parents are telling you, I want you to sit back and reflect on what you just did. But to be used as a punishment, like sit in silence, is the wrong way to approach silence. But yeah, certainly it's as we mature and to into adults, into enlightened beings, I think we need to take even a closer look at to what type of thoughts come to us when we are silent. Like typically, if I'm consciously making the effort to be silent, I have to brace myself for the negative thoughts, and I can count the seconds before they come. I can literally count the seconds that can come. And if I was able to have a pen and paper, I could even draw them as they're arriving. Like, for instance, if you tell somebody to think big and positive thoughts, goals, aspirations, these things, you can count the seconds before the negative thought comes in to say, you can't do that. Who are you to dream such a thing? You're black, you're white, you're male, you're female. You will come up all these excuses straight away, or after a few seconds, after the positive thought comes into your head. Why is that? But it's being able to welcome that negative thought and hold on to it and push through it. And do it because of the perceived limitations. Do it because you're terrified. You know, a lot of people are too scared to have any negative thoughts. So they'd rather keep being busy. And you see this all the time with people who are going through delayed grieving for a loved one. They have not yet reached acceptance that their loved one has gone. So they'll keep themselves very, very busy. Very, very busy. Then sooner or later, maybe years might have gone by, and they're still, for some reason, and everything crashes. You know, they have a breakdown in the middle of the street. And why is that? You know, instead of being able to go to that quiet space and be trained and go through your own personal training to deal with difficult thoughts, and everyone as an individual have their own set of difficult thoughts born out of their own experience. You know, nobody's got the same negative thought that comes through their head. You can group them as negative thoughts, but it's your direct experience. Somebody might have called you fat, lazy, ugly, whatever it is. These are things that will come to your head. You know, somebody might have referred to you in terms of being from a lower ethnic or social class, whatever the case may be. That will be in your head. You need to learn to expect that thought. Know where that thought emanates from, where it comes from, what is the nucleus of that thought. And you know that it's grounded in an experience that you've had in the past. It's not in the present. So in the past, it's not now. It's up to you to be able to reframe that through training, you know, through reading positive things, being around positive people, you know, and having experiences that equally challenge that negative view of yourself. Because if we fail to live life to the fullest, and if we fail to take on experiences that we are not familiar with, we are stuck in the situation whereby we know everything as is. There's no new flavor that you ever taste. There's no new sport that you ever try. There's no new music. There's no new geographic location that you're going to visit. You know, that makes you very limited. And equally so, whatever negative thoughts you have, you're not given that enough exposure to different scenarios to test how you would overcome it. Yeah, some problems that we have are situational. You know, if you're struggling in one country, doesn't mean you won't prosper in another country. But if you have a negative way of viewing travel, you will never be able to test that theory out. So yeah, I encourage people who are going through, who are trying to master silence, is to also keep your mind very open to new experiences all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I was thinking about when you talk about like death and hard times, and it's like people just hold their breath just to run away, they think, from it, and then it's eventually getting in behind, and then they crash. And I believe as well that I'm on a mission to also like talk about death as much as born, because it's not that people talk about death until death has been gone. So I believe you're not prepared as you are prepared to get a newborn, like you preparing like 9 months of getting like a newborn, but you're not preparing of a death. And I think that's also one key. Like when my own parents passed away, it was like I have dealt with everything that I was in my mind about. Like I felt like I told them everything I wanted to tell them about, like I loved them and thankful for, grateful and so on, for the life they gave me in Sweden, and made it clear. I knew that I will not have my parents for forever, and so I was really prepared. Of course, I was sad the day it happened, but I also, like you said, I took care of it through silence, because when you train silence, you, like I said, you get the clarity when you're silent, and that's made my like time not so long, because I just went into the silence mode and I got the clarity enough to continue my journey, that I know that my parents are following me. So that's my take about.
Yeah, that's moving.
Born.
Yeah, that's really profound, and I think we need to do a dedicated show to being able to reconcile death. You know, it's another one of those because we're surrounded by death, and a lot of us don't understand that. If you just turn on the radio,
No, and just like I've been thinking about, like you preparing like at least 9 months to get like parents, or you're gonna become an uncle or so on. You're preparing like the 9 months, but death, you're not preparing, and that's what I said. If you're not preparing, then you cannot expect that you are prepared.
yeah.
But if you have the tools and you have experience and knowledge about like what kind of cocktail do I need to take to get
That's
through
what I said
this?
the last time. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So
When Gert was here the last time, when he came to visit me, we walked in the cemetery. Around the corner from my house, we got a green. I recorded a little video today on the green, and it's a cemetery, but it's a very old cemetery. So typically, you got the tombstones of people that 100 to 300 years passed away. You see, so Gert was here and Geert was here. Sorry, should I say? And we were walking there, and he was there with his wife as well, and he was reading the tombstones. He was reading them, and he said him and his wife that they enjoy doing that, reading tombstones. And to many people, that might look like, oh wow, that's a bit creepy. Why would you do that? But from a historical point of view, you can learn a lot from reading people's tombstones that enable you to live your life today. You could understand how people are processing grief by reading what's written on their tombstones as well. And I also teach people many times, for you to move forward in this world, you need to start by living life backwards. Start by writing your will. Start by writing how you want to be remembered. Write your own tombstone first. And then in doing so, you just live in accordance to what you wrote on your tombstone. Here lies Douglas, who is a conscientious, loving individual. If that's what it's going to be on my tombstone, that's how I need to live my life. It's as simple as that. So I'm no longer confused, because I know where I'm going. So I'm not planning for my death like in the immediate terms, but I can see it. as the inevitability of me breathing and living life now. So all I need to do is understand what values, what principles do I have to live my life, and I just do that. So yeah, I'm with you on talking about death, and I was going to say very quickly that we're surrounded by death anyway. Most of our artists that we listen to on radio, depending on what radio station you listen to, are gone. They're no longer alive. If you switch on to classic FM, all those original composers are no longer here. But you listen to their tracks, you listen to their songs, their symphonies, and all that kind of stuff. From if you listen to pop, reggae, jazz, even hip hop, a lot of the great artists, they're no longer here anyway. But we're still influenced by their presence, even though their presence is physically absent. They're still here. You see, they're probably here more. Some of these artists are being played more now on radio than they were when they were alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
It's true, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. It's
you even sit on your couch, drive your car, look at the road signs. The people that designed and built these things, a lot of them are no longer alive, but you use the stuff that they crafted and engineered to this very day, take it for granted, but they're no longer here. I was watching a program on one of the Apollo missions, and they cast a satellite into space, and this one was the mission to basically explore the outer planets, the ice planets like Uranus and Neptune and whatnot. And I think five years ago or something, one of these satellites have actually gone into interstellar space. So it's actually left our known solar system. It's gone. And it's still flying into deep space, right? And in this spaceships, capsule, whatever it is, whatever we describe it, they have memorabilia for life on Earth. They've got records that play. It's playing records continuously, like telling people, whoever these future people that they will see, who we are on Earth. And the amazing thing about this is, it's the furthest known man-made object in space and time. It's gone, yeah. And the time it's been flying for over, I think, 20, 30 years. It's been traveling, right? And it's so far away. You could understand that if it was ever discovered by a different life form, a different species, whatever it is, right? Alien, whatever it is. By the time they get to Earth, we might have destroyed ourselves completely. We might no longer be here. And that is a very humbling, very, very humbling thought for me. That right now, as we speak, there's a spacecraft, in interstellar space, carrying messages from Earth that were recorded 30, 40 years ago. And whoever discovers that would think that's how we're living now. But we're already more technologically advanced. We're now 2021, and we're probably at the brink of collapsing humanity completely, or we're at the brink of something truly great. Because through a conversation like this, Jonas, we are exposing, laying to bear some of man's deepest fears. And in literature, you can see how it's written about silence. You can see in literature how man has written about death and what sort of things that they have come to symbolize death. And we've come a long way from all of those teachings. I think we're at the precipice of something truly groundbreaking or truly earth-shattering. I don't know which way you want to frame that, but certainly it's an interesting time. Technology has never been more advanced. As I'm talking to you now, literally, you're in Sweden. Is it 1 hour time zone? 1 hour. Yeah, but we're communicating. 1 hour, but it's almost as real time. If we were to go back 100 years, they would say we are gods. They would say we are aliens with this level of technology. But the technology to do this has always been there. The technology to fly It's always been there. It's just we had not discovered it. You know, so there's something about recognizing where we are as a species that should encourage more humanity, should encourage a closeness of the human race. But I think that it could go either way. That's why I'm digressing. But I've been watching too much sci-fi this week.
No, but I mean, I think you are on to it. I mean, from my perspective, I believe when I started to, I just need to start. When I started to laugh and smile when you talked about the planet, it was like, yeah, I tried to to develop my English. So I was watching like what is it called? American's Funniest Home Videos, and
Okay.
you know the dad and the kid are studying the solar system, and the dad is telling the son, like 6-7 years old, your anus.
Yeah.
The kid is answer back, my anus. It makes my smile when you talked about the solar.
Do you know what? That's one word, to tell the truth, I had to think twice before I pronounced it. And that's why I pronounced it Uranus. That's his correct pronunciation, because I grew up saying Uranus. So I made a conscious, no, let's just show them, demonstrate at least educated. It's called Uranus. That's the name. That's the name of the planet there. Yeah. But yeah, my tongue was already starting to say Uranus and start to laugh. So.
Yeah, no, but that was just passes about that. But I mean, I believe we need to, as I talked about it again, like take back our all senses. Like, for example, when we close our eyes every day, especially a word. So let's say for every time I practice martial arts, you close your eyes, then you take away one of your senses, and then you exceed your other senses. Your hearing, your smelling, your tasting. You can, like, if you have been fighting and you have some blood in your mouth, you can taste that. So I think people, like we talked about before, like relearned, try to like I tried before when I was working with disabled people. I really tried actually to be like blind for a day, to just try to understand how your life is without seeing, or the deaf, or not hearing. So it's really good experience to just understand yourself, but also to develop your other senses, I think, because we're not using our senses at like optimized it anymore, because we're getting lazy and we actually can't not be able to take all information that is out there. What I listen to, like a really mind-breaking, like the eyes is so important nowadays, because there is everything you get from the outside, what perception you have through your eyes. But if you close your eyes, then it's lower down your stress level and or anything else, because you can't see it. If you can't see it, then it's not there. So like you said, the brain is believing you what you're telling it. Like, if I'm telling I'm good, then I'm good. If I'm telling I'm bad, I'm bad. So I think about what you said, we need to talk more to just deep down.
Most definitely. And I really like this, this exploration of silence and death. They go hand in hand, they do. They go hand in hand, silence, death, death, absence of sound as well. You're no longer in the, you can see how they are connected. But but we have to be brave and go there. And you said something about clarity, and I think once you overcome those demons, those thoughts that are negative that will exist in silence, you will be confronted with clarity. You start seeing things crystal clear, and then, as you said, your senses become so heightened, so sensitive, because now it's operating and vibrating at frequencies that you didn't know. Like your tastes get so, I don't know, so what's it called? Sharpened, through that experience of you consciously taking effort to either dull your other senses or just be still, and go deep within. So, and as your example, talking about seeing things from a blind person's or disabled person's perspective, I really like that. I like that a lot, because that's all about compassion. And I don't think there's enough compassion in this world. I think we need to, move beyond sympathy and donating money, and from the views that, oh, look at those poor kids, no food. Look at that poor donkey that has no legs. And donating money. Sympathy only goes so far, but compassion is a lot deeper. It's a conscious effort to actually experience as much as you can what the other person's going through. So then and only then can you start, and I say start, to believe or start to see things from the other person's perspective. And that's what enables people to understand each other, when we're truly compassionate about things instead of sympathy. Because sympathy, from my experience, being somebody of color, sympathy is not something I like. I don't want somebody to feel sorry for myself. Look, it's not about sorry. Doesn't do anything. It doesn't put food in my stomach. It doesn't make me feel. What I want is compassion. I want people to be empathic and have compassion. And then they can actually say, okay, fine. If I was in that position, I could understand why people will be feeling like this. And if you if you're not compassionate and you're not empathic, and you use sympathy, you could potentially end up becoming paternal, and start looking at people as if you're their parents. And, like, this is good for you, take this is money for you. And, and that paternalistic thing keeps people in a childlike state where you're the adult, they're always going to be the kid. And nobody wants to be that. Even your own children, they grow to test their parents so that they can be independent. So having a paternalism over people, places, things, is not the right approach. I would say it's definitely viewing it from the other person's perspective.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree, and I think we will continue our journey on that one. And when you said it's like, I think and I believe, without knowing, but I think we will inspire a lot of younger people, at least, I think, to just be authentic and more emphatic.
Yeah.
And like you said, not feeling sorry, more like you said. So I believe we are inspired one by one, and it's gonna increase when you do that.
Super. So no, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and we've gone straight live. So we have to really, really celebrate that moment. And as we do around here, I'm just trying to find the mic drop. That's not the right one. We're looking for the mic drop. And I can't find it. Oh my God Almighty. I can't even find it. On the mixer. But what we can do is do this. We do that instead. No, Jonas, that was excellent.
Good. But I mean, it feels anyway. It just be needed to say mic drop, and then you feel it.
Yeah, I think we use that for the remix.
Yeah,
we use that for the remix.
And you can hear it.
Yeah.
So when you're in that flow,
Yeah.
you hear it, you feel it, you don't need to hear it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's really amazing what a conversation and listening could give me. I mean, I know that I need to give to get, but sometimes you really give too much, and then you need to recharge. And you are absolutely one of my best recharger. So thank you for that.
No worries, Dito. I think we reflect on each other quite well when we bounce off each other ideas and philosophies, experiences, and I just hope that people can take from these conversations enough sustenance to feed their mind, body, and soul. That's what this is about, anyway. So we welcome these opportunities, and we make apologies for not being there last week. We've been busy in the background making sure the technology works. So on the behalf of the Mic Drop Club and Jonas Froyd, we out.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out micdropclub.com and get the show notes and useful links. Subscribe to the podcast. Don't just live life, make life boom.